Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the November 3rd council meeting. Before we begin, thank you to council administration, all wearing masks here this evening with increased COVID counts in our community. I know that sometimes there's issues hearing when you're speaking wearing a mask, so if you would like to remove your mask when you're speaking, that would be okay. We are spread apart here, but otherwise, please try to leave your mask on.
What did you say?
Can I get a motion, please, that the agenda for the November 3rd, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted with the addition of sundry item I-1? Councillor Chouinard will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the October 20th, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Bevan will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the October 20th, 2020 organizational meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Byer will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. We have no public hearings, delegations, or reading of bylaws this evening. Reports from administration. Can I get a motion, please, that council appoint Kayla Sidoric as returning officer for the 2021 municipal election and have the CAO serve as the substitute returning officer? Councillor Sorensen will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Congratulations, Kayla.
Unfortunately, that means you can't go anymore.
That's exactly it. You're committed now. Can I get a motion, please, that council appoint Thomas Perry, a community peace officer, bylaw officer for the town of Edson? Councillor Bevan will make that motion, and I will ask Mr. Schramm to tell us about this appointment.
Okay, I would just like to take the opportunity to welcome Tom as a newest member of our protective services team. He's coming to us on a temporary role at this stage, and will be fulfilling the role of our community peace officer / bylaw. And one of the things that we have to do through resolution is make sure we give him the powers to be able to enforce our municipal bylaws. So I want to welcome Thomas, and if there's any questions, we would be happy to answer any.
Go ahead, Councillor Bevan.
Through the chair to Alan Perry, what classification do you have?
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, I can't. I'm a community peace officer level 1,
Okay.
fully trained. I got that training in 2016 in Parkland County, and spent some time in Devon shortly after that. So very well versed in all the provincial statutes, but as well as lots of municipal bylaw enforcement as well.
Well, I know that's what we're looking for. We're looking at getting all of our guys CPO ones if we can too. So welcome to our team.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Chouinard.
My question to Al, you mentioned he's temporary. Are we replacing someone or just filling a vacant role? Or what's the idea of temporary?
Right now I have a bit of a shortage due to some medical reasons. So he's filling in that temporary role until we flush that out.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Welcome aboard, Thomas. How many years of experience do you have, and how are you enjoying Edson so far? You've been here for about a week now, I understand.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Yeah, so in 2016 I started as a community peace officer, but I started doing security in 2013. I was a supervisor at Northlands, so all the hockey games and concerts, things like that. So I have a diploma in investigative studies from Grant MacEwan. So just definitely building my experience. So coming up on 5 years in real law enforcement. I'm enjoying Edson. Everyone's been really welcoming, really great, and I said in the interview, I haven't spent a whole lot of time in Edson before this, driving through to the mountains and stuff. So it's a really cool town. I mean, it's a lot bigger than I first anticipated. So it's been really great.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Wilkinson.
Through the chair, just comment. I'd really like to welcome you to Edson, and I hope you really enjoy it here.
Thank you very much, Phil.
Through to Mr. Schramm, are we going to be enforcing some of those provincial statutes since we do have a level 1 within our ranks now?
Yeah, so basically the process that we'll move forward through now is, step 1 is what we're doing tonight, make sure that you can enforce the municipal bylaws. Our next step will make sure that we get Tom certified through the Solgen and is level 1, but the level 1 is very specific to the municipality.
Okay.
He has all the qualifications and credentials, we just need to get that certification done as well. And then the next step will be coming to council with some ideas and some lists of potential provincial legislations that as a community we want to enforce. That'll be a direction from council as to dictate what we want to do, and we'll be bringing that in the near future.
All right, thank you. All right, if there's no further questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Congratulations, Thomas,
Thank
on
you.
your
Appreciate it.
on your role. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve the 2-year vacation pilot program for out-of-scope staff as described in administration's memorandum? Councillor Curry will make that motion. And we have our manager of human resources with us, Colin. Take her away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We discussed this at length at committee last week. Council was generally supportive of that time. Some recommendations were provided and accepted, particularly in regards to tracking and having some mechanisms in place to evaluate our process. Some other things we just clarified in a little bit greater detail so it's clear what the aims of the program are. For example, clarifying that the community investment days are absolutely meant for supporting the Edson community and exclusively for supporting the Edson community. Aside from that, you've heard it from me already. I'm open to questions.
All right. I'll open the floor. Questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Chenard.
Just an actual clarification, it says that we're doing a 2-year pilot project, and unless I'm misreading it, we're gonna offer it to all management, so all non-union employees, is that correct, or am I misreading?
All out
it?
of scope, pardon me, correct on, through the chair, correct on both points. All out of scope staff and a 2-year pilot.
Okay, well then the only problem I have with that, I'm allowed to respond on it. If we do a 2-year pilot and 2 years we decide it's a bad idea, we give it and take it away? Is that the concept?
Through the chair, I do acknowledge that that wouldn't be the most pleasant conversation to have with our staff. That being said, if we don't try it, we don't have the opportunity to offer it in the first place.
Go ahead, CEO Erica.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I just may also add to that, I don't think it's an all or nothing proposition either. After the end of the pilot program, it could be incorporating any learnings, adjustments, tweaks. And so that's a big part of why we are recommending a pilot, is because this is it's as described in committee last week, a paradigm shift. It's a completely different way of considering vacation and leave in our organization, and we expect to learn a lot over the next 2 years, and so we're reserving the right, and we're suggesting that council also reserve the right to make adjustments and or to completely step back from the program if after 2 years we feel that it's not serving our organization the way that we would anticipate.
All right, Councillor Curry.
I just noticed here too, through the chair, that you had just added that aspect that week of overtime is now no longer in this, right? So I think that's just something to make note of, because we hadn't really discussed that at the meeting last week. And I think that is really important because that's a substantial difference in how much we're adding. So in reality, that is 5 days that everybody has that we're not counting into this. So when we're looking at 15 days, it's actually 20 days and that such. So I do think that should be noted, that is added into this, because it does drop that increase quite a bit. But well, it drops it by 5 days, which is substantial. So I just wanted to kind of point out that was added to the agenda and wasn't in there last week. Information.
Thank you. Through the chair, I agree.
All right, thank you. Councillor Byer and then Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. Through the chair to council and administration. As I mentioned last week, I think this is I'm pleased that we're trying something that's out of the box and a little bit different, that can set our organization apart from other municipalities that we're competing with when we don't necessarily have the funds to compete with financially, that we can offer them something else besides that. And I also think that the community investment days when we're looking to attract a new employee, that I think that speaks a lot about our organization and our culture and the type of person that we want here. We want someone that's really interested in being a part of our community and not just here for the vacation days, I guess. So, so I feel that that's a really interesting thing to have on here, and I appreciate administration's time in bringing something back to us when we're I guess discussed that we just can't afford to be at the 75% of the curve. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Through the chair, I can't support this motion, so I just wanted to give my rationale. I feel we as a councillor now currently have all of our employees working at 9/10 of their time and being paid for 9/10, giving us the 1/10, which we're using to combat COVID. So this new initiative then would give management a 4% raise. And when we talk about being a team, which we often do, this only includes our management workers. It does not include our frontline workers. So then I think the idea of team is lost.
All right, thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you through the chair to council. While I'm in, I said before in the community of the whole, I'm in support of this general concept. I can't support it in this current state. I'm told that it won't cost us any extra money. It'll make us more competitive, and that our service levels won't decrease. And I don't believe the metrics provided will measure those values. I believe most of the 5 metrics proposed here, I can almost predict that they will be favorable to support this program, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wilkinson, or sorry, Councillor Curry.
Through the chair, just a point of clarity, it's not just management, it's all out of scope, so numerous of our frontline employees are out of scope, so it's not just management. Just on that, and I do think something for council to really remember, with this being out of scope versus our union. Our out of scope is losing all access to overtime right now, and our out of scope currently only gets 5 days of overtime. And I think if we were to look at a lot of our union employees, we would see that their OT bank, especially some that we know during winter months and stuff, I think we would see that their overtime pay is quite substantial, and we have a lot of out of scope that we know for sure are working overtime and are expected to just flex their days and do that. So I do think there is a substantial difference that our out of scope don't get overtime. They don't get overtime pay, and that's a substantial amount. When you talk about percentage of increase, it would be interesting to see what the percentage of increase in wage that they get in overtime that is not allowed for out of scope.
Go ahead.
If I may, just on the metrics and what we're tracking, we're proposing to track everything that we feel we can track, dollar for dollar, number for number. Things like productivity are very difficult things to track. We're not on an assembly line. We have varied jobs, but that doesn't mean that we will not be having significant discussions about productivity. That doesn't mean that we won't be talking to our managers. We won't be evaluating our progress in meaningful ways. It's just that kind of information is difficult to put into a spreadsheet.
If I may also add to that, thank you, Mr. McComb. In terms of the tracking mechanisms as well, I would add that our regular financial reporting for salaries will incorporate some of the cost elements that you may be concerned about. I don't want to speak for Councillor Sorensen, but I am mentioning, without increased costs, and so demonstrating and showing that salary costs don't increase over the program will be, I think, a relatively easy thing to do, or at least the data will be there to demonstrate that. It's not specifically listed in that way, but that is something that we are obviously very aware of, and remain open to other items that we might suggest, or that council might suggest we track. Just building on Colin's point that not all things are quantifiable to be effectively measured.
All right, thank you. Councillor Byer.
Thank you. Through the chair to administration, so with my decision to be supportive of this motion, I have also made an assumption, and I just perhaps want some clarity and a confirmation of my assumption based on the past couple of years. I've observed administration and our human resource officer doing a role that maybe not all organizations do, and that's providing conversations with employees or annual, what's what I'm looking for?
Performance development.
Evaluations, thank you. I would make an assumption then that any of the out-of-scope employees that maybe someone that is not as seasoned as another out-of-scope employee, that if they are taking all their vacation days and not performing properly, that they would still be treated the same way that they are now prior to this pilot project, and that their job would still be, they would have to be accountable for their work.
Through the chair, absolutely yes. Performance management is something that we only intend to get better at. Performance management is not just something that happens once a year, but it is an ongoing conversation between managers and employees. And we strongly encourage anyone with direct reports to be having those conversations on a real-time basis, and then following up in a more formal sense at that annual touch point, or for example, I typically have a biannual touch point where I'll have a 6-month review with my staff. I've been encouraged, generally speaking, by the quality of the feedback being provided. I only expect that to continue, and I would very much expect this to be a part of the conversation. If there was a lapse in productivity, then that is something that needs to be addressed, and we're not going to wait for the performance management to do that. We're going to work on that right away, but certainly it would come up again in that process.
I would, if I may again, I would just add to that as well, that is already a process that's in place, and nothing would change in terms of vacation being at the approval of the employer, right? And so, and employee still has to request a certain period of time off and receive approval for it. And if you're an employee who has a significant deliverable that is off schedule or due in that period of time, and you're doesn't appear that you're on track to meet those deadlines, then it's at the behest of the manager whether or not they would approve that as part of that process. And so this is one of the reasons why these programs actually enhance productivity, is because people have this time available and they want to use it, and they can only use it if they are productive, if they are completing their jobs and fulfilling their roles satisfactorily, or they won't have access to it because they'll have work that is incomplete and needs to be addressed.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bellett?
Through the chair. So this is not for union employees, right? Correct?
That's correct.
Okay, now I've heard from different people in that, and I look at it this way, and I've heard that our union people are getting overtime in that, and other people don't get the overtime, don't get paid out or whatever in that. But do they get called out at 2 o'clock in the morning, we have a water break when it's 30 below? Do they go out at night shifts and do opposite shifts and everything else and get pushed around and stuff like this and that? Why are we treating our union people the same way? There are frontline workers out there keeping this town running. Yes, we have management, but I don't see anybody out there with a shovel on the management side digging, doing anything else, jumping on graders and everything else and being out there at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is. My phone is lit up when people read this here and said, you guys always go with management without a scope in that. What about our union employees? Yes, they bargain. 0%, 0%, 1.5, and 2% or whatever now. But management still gets a cost of living, they still get a 4% compared to the 1.69 the union's gonna get. So they said again, you guys are picking on the union again. And my phone lit up, my email lit up and everything else in that. So they're saying, why don't, they still gonna have to work 25 years to get 7 weeks, the union. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. Where management's only gonna get more time off if it's approved, plus 5 days or whatever, Matty. So that's where I'm at, that we seem to, we don't look after our union employees. I think if I was one of them, and I know they can't go out on a wildcat strike, I'd go to a wildcat strike, say something about it, for sure.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bevan, for making a point. I don't know if you want to respond to that.
No, I absolutely do, Mr. Mayor. If I may, first of all, Councillor Bevan, I would really appreciate if you wouldn't mind forwarding me those emails so that I could see them. And be happy to know which people you've spoken with about this. If you would provide me a list, I would be very much obliged. I would also just suggest that there is no one who spends more time at water breaks than our current utilities manager. And likewise, in other situations, our management group is absolutely 100% out in the middle of the night, supervising, supporting, overseeing, participating in emergency response. The difference is that the union staff are compensated for those times and the managers currently are not. So we're actually treating our union staff better than managers, and rightfully so. We have a wonderful, dedicated, hardworking group of unionized employees who deserve the compensation that they have. But I just want to be very, very clear that our management group as a whole spends more out of regular hour time per person than our unionized staff, for which they are not compensated. That's we can clearly show and demonstrate that. So I just want to ensure there's a lot of clarity there. I would also just add to that as Colin mentioned and described at length in the committee meeting, the mechanisms for compensating a bargaining unit are just different. And we fully expect and anticipate that the union may have interest in this, and when collective bargaining comes around, we will be fully prepared to engage and discuss and talk about how the union is compensated and how they may have interest in this or other programs, as we always have. I would be happy to, I think, suggest and point out and demonstrate a number of enhancements that have been made to the compensation package of our unionized employees through our last collective bargaining agreement that have, were supported and agreed to by our union staff, that I think they would also suggest were positive and enhancements. And I'm very, very satisfied and comfortable that we exercise good faith in how we address and deal with our unionized staff. I do think it's important that we don't play those two groups against each other in that way. We can take care of both. We can be good employers to both, but it is not going to look identical. By virtue of the structure of the positions and the structure of labor law and the structure of our internal mechanisms, they will not look the same. But there's no reason that we can't take good care of both our out-of-scope and in-scope employees. There's no conflict there.
Great, thank you. Councillor Curry and then Councillor Wilkinson.
Through the chair, I would just ask that council please refrain from calling it manager out-of-scope program. It is an out-of-scope program, and we have numerous out-of-scope employees who are not management, so that completely gives a wrong impression, I think, to everyone. It's not a manager out-of-scope, it's out-of-scope employees. And also in respect to those out-of-scope, Councillor Bevan, we have numerous out-of-scope employees who regularly work scheduled evenings and weekends. And it is scheduled programming that they provide for this community, and they also are here at 8:30 in the morning. So I just think, just a reminder to have respect when we're talking about these employees.
With respect, but then
Oh,
maybe
hang
we
on,
should
you don't have the floor. Councillor Wilkinson.
Through the chair, when we talk about respect, I think it's absolutely inappropriate to ask councillors where our sources of information are from. It's our job to have the pulse of the community. I could start listing the hundreds of
Councillor
people.
Wilkinson, as a part of our policy within our council procedures bylaw, there is actually a clause in there where we can ask that question, whether or not
We
who-
respond to it as our own choice.
yeah. So
Right.
I just want to point that
Okay,
out, that
well,
there
I
is
like-
a clause in the procedure bylaw that can be requested.
That's right, because our job is to get the pulse of the community, period.
Councillor Bevan, is there anything you want to add?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Schnarr.
Actually, part of the main reason I will not be supporting this is I look at when I'm attracting employees, I want to offer what I have to offer and put an incentive in. If you stay for more years, and I know the trend is 5 years, but I'm more in favor of attracting long-time employees, and also to be fair to the employees that have done their time. So that's my main reason behind this.
All right, thank you. Counselor Sorensen.
Thank you through the chair to council. I did appreciate the comments that administration made, so I could support this if costs were included as a metric for evaluating the program in 2 years. And if there was some kind of wording in there that productivity must be maintained in order for vacation leave to be approved.
All right, Mr. McComb, go ahead.
If I may, thank you very much. That is in the drafted policy, absolutely. That's in there in spirit and pretty much in letter. In order to qualify for vacation, if I have a staff member who's not being productive and wants to take 3 weeks vacation, we're going to have a long, difficult conversation. I support that completely, and that was always the intent. Happy to be more clear about that. And of course, we will track whatever costs we can. What I didn't want to do was try and cook up metrics that we can't put on a spreadsheet. But right off the hop, we can say we're saving ourselves 4%. And we will look at any other costs that we can and track whatever we can to demonstrate the success of this program.
Just before we move on to that, it's relevant to Mr. McComb's comment, if I may.
Go ahead.
Is just a reminder of the financial liability account that will be removed as well, which is somewhere between a $300,000 and $400,000 annual liability that the taxpayers carry. This policy will remove that liability, so it has direct, clear, tangible financial benefits. We expect there will be other cost measures that are positive because of the program, but there is immediately a significant removal of that liability from the organization.
Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Sorensen.
Through the chair, sorry, just as the regional FCSS rep, like FCSS really pride themselves on being there when emergencies happen, like say the fire up in Fort McMurray and stuff. They just were utilized and away they went. Now, if your employees have a fifth of the year off, how are we going to utilize it for the needs of the people when those needs come up? That is a big question to me. And not only FCSS, many of their other departments, how do they run with 1/5 of the time away from the job? Like, I just don't understand that.
Go ahead, Mr. McComb.
I would have to look at the 1/5. I'll restate what I stated last week. This is not a new assumption that our employees can do their jobs with 7 weeks vacation or in 45 weeks out of the year. They can, and that's already assumed. What our policy, I think, falsely assumes right now is that it's going to take you 25 years of experience to get to that point, and that just doesn't wash with me. I believe we have a very, very competent manager in FCSS and a very, very competent group. They can make this work. I would like to reiterate that, I hear the union concerns, etc., but we are doing this for the taxpayer. That is the absolute number one reason. It's what drives everything we do. This is going to enable us to provide more effective services at a lower cost. And we're putting it in a pilot so we can prove that, but it will right at the outset. And the FCSS group, they can handle this.
Councillor Sorensen and Councillor Chenard.
Through the chair to administration, policy was mentioned, so is this going to be coming back for approval of policy, or are we approving this tonight?
Go ahead.
Thank you through the chair to Councillor Sorensen. I think I would say no. That is a procedural policy in terms of how managers will approve and those types of things. The conceptual pieces there that I think that we would have council review are all before you at this time. It's no different than kind of our current policy manual for approving vacation and that type of thing. We refer to them as human resource policies, and so I apologize for any confusion there, but it's really actually more of a procedural process.
Councillor Shannon.
Through the chair to the CEO, I must have missed something. What is the 300,000 liability that we're clearing ourselves of? That, I just want an explanation on.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, under our current system where an employee accrues vacation,
Correct.
so if an employee has 5 weeks of vacation per year and they don't take any of that vacation at the end of the year, we owe them the dollar amount equivalent of those 5 weeks. And our current system is set up so that when you join the organization, you have 0 vacation, and technically you shouldn't really take any vacation for your first year, and then you're using that accrual in future years to meet your vacation needs. And so currently our management staff, for the most part, will be carrying an entire year's worth of their vacation accrual at any given time. And then the dollar amount that's associated with that liability is, as I said, roughly $300,000. It fluctuates depending on the amount of time, but that's a financial liability that we have to account for and set aside an appropriate amount of money to offset that cost. Under the new system, it is not an accrual-based system. It seems kind of trite, but it's a use it or lose it system. You have the vacation. If you don't use it at the end of the year, it just disappears and it's gone. There's no liability associated with it. So we no longer have to set aside that $300,000 as part of this policy.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for your explanation, but I'm the one to feel that if an employee didn't take vacation because they were needed, we're not giving them money for nothing. We are rewarding the individual. So there is some employees who got to push out the door to go on employees, but if we are busy and, they're called upon, I believe that, we're saying the money is there, but we're not just giving away free money. If that employee has put their time in, we need to reward them somehow. We may set up that at the end of the year, there's a payout or there's, lieu of time, because in different times and needs in our town, some of these management is what we're talking about here, and other employees are called upon. They're not just hanging around. They're there for a reason, and if they are there for a reason, serving the taxpayers, I believe that we owe them compensation for their time.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Chenard. You're 100% right, and absolutely under the existing system, the vacation days that have been accrued are an obligation that the employer has. That just changes under the new system. So you may recall, as part of that, the process we're suggesting is, and as part of approval of this, I just want to make sure that that's clear as well, is that as of December 31st, any existing vacation accrual would be paid out, and then everyone would start on January 1st with the fresh program. So any vacation that has been earned, and this may also reflect back on your concern for those who have earned vacation over time, they are going to get whatever is entitled to them as compensation as part of the process that we are recommending, because it is, as you described, an earned benefit.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
I can talk again, sorry. Okay, Mr. McComb, you said we're doing this for the taxpayer, all right? Well, my definition I found for a volunteer is a person who does something, especially helping other people, willingly and without being forced or paid to do it. In this case, we're asking for 5 days to volunteer, which they're going to be paid for. So they're going to help the taxpayers in their various roles of the taxpayers already volunteering, getting some extra help. But the taxpayer themselves are actually paying for the person to come and help them. So to me, is that for the taxpayer? Like, I know this is a popular thing to do in big corporations. Body Shop did this years ago, but then they're doing it out of their profit margin. We don't have a profit margin with taxpayers. It's taxpayers paying these people to volunteer to help the taxpayer, but it is taxpayers.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, it would be my pleasure to respond to this. I've been in Edson for 2 years. I sought out and accepted this position because my wife grew up here and we have family here. I have been thoroughly impressed and humbled by the spirit of volunteerism in this community. It's really been a pleasure to see that, probably more so than any other community I've lived in. And the staff in this organization are absolutely no exception to this rule. They're already already out volunteering in the community. The intent is not to persuade them to go and volunteer. I strongly believe they already want to, that this is simply allowing our staff some time when they wouldn't normally be able to get out there to offer their time, their hours. And this is why I'm particularly excited about this piece. I volunteer actively in this community, but that time is typically reserved for evenings, weekends. Now, you know, there may be on occasion where, you know, I've already had one of my staff members come up to me and say, hey, now maybe I can, you know, once a quarter take a half day or a day and go help the food bank out, right? So.
But they're being paid by taxpayers' money really to do that.
Yeah, I think Mr. Mayor, if I may just address that specifically, she is correct that those would be paid days, Councillor Wilkinson. But I think where I think the assumption may be problematic is that this is somehow in addition to what they're already being paid. We're not suggesting that they're be paid anymore. It's one of the beauties of this system is that the taxpayers don't actually have to contribute any more actual dollars to enhance the you know, profile of our organization. And so this isn't something where we would be viewing it as, you know, an additional cost in true dollars or true taxation piece. And so it has zero impact on how much a taxpayer is paying for our staff to serve them, which we are very mindful of and aware of. In fact, it is one of the great motivations for this program is how can we creatively compensate our people without burdening the taxpayers any more than they already are. And this is, I think, what Mr. McComb is referencing. It's driven by that specific interest we have as an organization that has brought this forward. And at this point, I would just like to also add, I'm very gratified by the robust conversation around this topic. It is a significant item, a significant departure from practices past. I appreciate the different interests and the different opinions and the different perspectives that are being shared here. We are very well aware that we're not asking a simple question here of council. And I hope council feels an extension of trust from us as administration, that you'll just evaluate that under the premise that we just only have the interest of growing the best possible organization to serve the people of Edson that we possibly can. Whether or not you support the program, I just hope that that is an understood premise of the conversation.
Could I just reply to that?
Councillor Byer first, and then
Okay.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. Through the chair to council. One of the reasons why I feel that community investment days are important, and I think that kind of changes the culture and the tone that we're setting for the out-of-scope employees that we're trying to attract, is that from my own experience, in a previous role, once a year we were able to volunteer to a local organization that needed a ton of manpower and extremely labor-intensive work. And we were able to show up and provide that organization with help that they would go under if they didn't have that help annually from the employer that I had previously. And we enjoyed it. It was great to be able to give back, and we were paid. We were paid for that time. But as an organization, it was great to be able to give back to the community, and I think that's why they did that. And my thoughts with our out-of-scope employees, you know, if we accept this tonight, to be able to do those community investment days, are that the organizations on the other end, I can only imagine what it would feel like to be an organization that a town employee, an out-of-scope employee, would choose them, that they're the organization, and the pride that it would be that to have someone, you know, want to choose that organization to volunteer for, right? I think that would really build a great reputation and relationship for our nonprofits, which we know many of them are struggling, and they lack volunteers, and they lack the support that they need. And we know that's a fact. They are lacking the support that they need to be successful, and I think that's one of the reasons why I support that investment day program. And I'm definitely empathetic for the out-of-scope employees that are currently using their vacation day, instead of taking the vacation days as a savings account. I'm absolutely empathetic towards that, but it does cost the taxpayer more money, and I think that this will alleviate that burden on the taxpayer. So $200,000 to $300,000 a year is a lot of money. So that's, I'm definitely empathetic for the employees that are using it for that, but I think that that is a savings, without a doubt.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Okay, through the chair, I'd just like to reply to the CAO. First off, I'd like to say, good, like you've volunteered, you've coached your children's thing, and it's wonderful that everybody has that idea, and I hope you can continue. But like most of us in our positions, we have volunteered a lot. As a staff, we built an Habitat for Humanity, but we did that on our own time, not expecting the taxpayers to pay us to go help in these volunteer things. So that was just my point.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Wow, that was a robust debate, and I haven't had a chance to speak yet. I don't know what else I can add to this conversation. I think this is a huge paradigm shift, and I think there's lots to be considered as we're looking at this, what we're trying to accomplish, and the positives and the negatives and the reaction, because systematically, when it comes to compensation and vacation, we're used to a certain way of doing things, and as I mentioned last week, I think the world is changing when it comes to how employers are providing benefits and different types of compensation to their employees. This is not just for management. This is out of scope too, and there is a ton of out of scope employees within our organization. And one of the things that we have looked at, and this council's talked about, is being in that 50th percentile. So we're somewhat in the loop of trying to attract employees, and when it comes to management, we're around 42%. So either we are going to have to pay more per dollar to attract these employees, or we have to provide some additional incentive. And I think this incentive will lessen that burden on taxpayers, make us a little bit more attractive. And what I really do like are those community investment days. We talk about, taxpayers are paying for staff to go volunteer. Well, taxpayers pay for grants for nonprofits. Taxpayers end up paying for nonprofits when they no longer can operate, and then they become a responsibility of a municipality. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to help build community capacity, to assist nonprofits within our community and organizations where they know that we have this program, and they could actually come to the town and say, hey, we need some manpower this day to do X program or service for the community, and there could be an opportunity to allow that to happen. I often come here in the evenings or on the weekends, and there's managers and out-of-scope employees working. I'm actually sometimes surprised when I'm driving around town on weekends and I see some of our managers from our utilities department out there. They're out there, and there are different types of compensation for union and non-union. All of our employees, whether they're opted out or out-of-scope or union, provide immense service to our community. And I think we've been really generous with a lot of the negotiations that have gone on with the unions. I think we've been generous with management as well. I think we try to work with all of our employees as much as possible. And I really take a lot of concern when we're trying to compare one to the other, because this organization only works if all employees are working together, and if council and administration is working together. We may have different perspectives on how to accomplish things, but I think we need to do a better job of ensuring that we're all as a part of one team. I do like the general concept of this. I've spoken about that, but the number of days is concerning to me. That is a lot of time off. As it's set right now, I cannot support this program. 35 days plus 5 days is just too much for me. It's way out of my comfort zone. I would be able to accept 30 plus 5. I think that's still really, really generous, and it's on the outer edge of my comfort zone, but something that I could live with. So unless there is a change to that piece of it, I would have a hard time supporting this motion. So I don't know if administration has any thoughts on that, but 35 plus 5 is just a little bit too generous in my mind at this point in time as a part of this pilot project. And that's another reason why I can support this. It is a pilot program where we can go back and review. And quite frankly, if I sense abuse or I sense that this is being taken advantage of, I'll be the first one coming to this council to ask for this program to be removed. I don't anticipate that. We have really good employees, but this is a use it or lose it kind of situation.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, if I may. You and I had a conversation where I said this is a use it or lose it program in more ways than one, right? I mean, we trust our group that they are going to make this a successful program, or I wouldn't be here in front of council suggesting it or endorsing it. And I will also, you may have to race me, Mayor, to be the first one. Well, I guess not me, sorry, unfortunately. You may have to race administration, I'll say, to the front of the line there, because I know Mr. McComb feels the same about this, is if this isn't having the effect, or if it isn't being used appropriately, we're not going to carry on with a program that's not functional or that is problematic. And so we welcome those conversations. We will absolutely be happy to bring back regular reporting mechanisms to discuss, describe, and understand the impact this program is having in our organization as part of that. In regards to your thoughts on the numbers there, I believe it was Councillor Curry that made the original motion. It would be at her discretion as to whether or not she would entertain a friendly amendment to that, and or this motion could be defeated on, and if it was, or voted on, and if it was defeated, an alternative motion could be made at that time for consideration. So that's just a process piece for you there.
All right, Mr. McComb.
If I may just share one brief piece from our procedural document. As Mr. Derricotte pointed out, it was erroneous of me to refer to it as a policy, but I think it speaks very much to the intent of this. This pilot assumes trust. We believe our employees are trustworthy and conscientious people who will, given the opportunity, prioritize the needs of taxpayers and work together for the common good. If we use this opportunity to increase the value we provide to taxpayers, improve teamwork, and enhance efficiency, this pilot will succeed. If we don't, it won't. It's that simple.
All right, thank you. To Councillor Curry, would you like to run with the original motion, or would you be willing to make a friendly amendment, changing the days from 35 to 30?
My concerns with that friendly amendment is how that works within the organization when we have people that do currently get 35 days. And so how does that work to those people? Then are we saying everybody gets 30 days and then at 25 years you get an additional 5 days? Like, is that the thought? Also knowing then I don't think it's acceptable for those people at the 35, then I think they definitely deserve that one. They have to get that 1 week, otherwise they're actually losing days. So my concerns with that, and as much as I would hate to see the loss of that community investment days, if there's the concerns of that, I think the consistency within the program of this being a vacation pilot program for our scope would be to go with the 35 days and then to lose those community investment days. So I guess I put that.
I'll address the one concern, and then I'll leave it to Councillor Curry to decide how she'd like to proceed with her motion. Our intent is, I believe there's only 2 employees that would have already accrued through their long-standing and honorable service to the town of Edson, who are already in that position. Our intent would be to honor anyone who was beyond whatever this policy would allow. And so I don't know, Mr. McComb, if you have anything to add to that, but we're certainly not intending to reduce anyone's entitlement.
Yeah, Mr. Cohn?
If I may, it's an excellent question, thank you, and it's right where my head went. So I checked the data. We do have those people who are at 40 days, the next person down is at 30. So that amendment would not negatively impact any staff as to where they are at this particular moment in time.
But it would eliminate that ability to get 35 days,
That's correct.
Yes,
which is,
yes.
so anyone at the table who had concerns about keeping people here loyal for that time, we just eliminated that. I'll be honest, I'd be willing to make the amendment as much as I don't like that, because I 100% believe in volunteerism, and I think it's okay that we support that. This is a vacation pilot program, so I would be more open to eliminating the community investment days, and if that was a separate program that you guys wanted to bring back to council to look at, and maintaining the 35 days, knowing that you're discussing, it's the same stuff, but I just think when we're talking specifically vacation, and now we've taken away that final amount, that actually does come across to me as we're actually punishing those who do stay now. So, who want to stay further, and I know we don't have very many then, but we might have some, and that is a common amount of weeks
So,
at the end.
so Councillor Curry, absolutely any existing employees that are at that threshold, I absolutely believe that they need to be, or receive the amount of days that they are getting currently. I guess my thought is that the whole idea behind this is employees are not staying longer. And they are getting a benefit because they're getting those extra days earlier on in their careers. So I don't see that as something that needs to be rewarded, because they're always gonna have those days and they get them earlier on in their career. Anybody that is near that threshold or at that threshold currently, I absolutely think we should be honoring that, because they have put in the time, there has been that expectation. But the whole idea behind this program was that when it comes to employees in general, they're not staying those 25, 35 years now. So that's really a kind of a moot point to me. That's where I'm at. As it stands right now, I can't support it. And I think the 5 community investment days are really, really important. And that is something that I could see us extending to possibly other employees in the future. So I'd like to keep that in there, but start off at 30 with grandfathering and anybody that's at that mark currently. Okay, Councillor Sorensen.
I like your suggestion, Mayor, and I can support that.
Theodore Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I just may comment, I think administration's preference would be the 30 days plus the 5 community investment days. We actually are very, very excited about the potential for that program, and believe that it will have a very specific outcome. Some of the dynamics that Councillor Byer mentioned in terms of how it changes and adds to and enhances the profile of our organization. And so if the number of days is of concern, I think removing 5 vacation days and going a 30 and 5, ultimately resulting in 35 days, would match the same number that is being discussed. But the community investment days are what we feel a pretty integral part to what we are hoping to accomplish with this. And so I just wanted to offer that for perspective, that would be administration's preference if the total was going to be 35 days.
Okay. So would you like to make a friendly amendment, or do we want to?
I will make a friendly amendment that we drop the vacation days to 30 and maintain the community volunteer days, investment days.
And then any existing employees that are at the max
Will
threshold will be
continue.
grandfathered in.
That's already built into our process.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and that, just to clarify, because it's not just the 25 plus, it's the 19 plus, because all of these actually have 5 days, so it's actually anyone with 19 years and plus, because at 19 years you would have 30 plus your 5 OT. So I just want that clarified, that it is 19 years plus, not just the 25 plus.
All right.
God, this is interesting. I feel like we record the vote, if it's not too late.
So we're gonna
Yes.
record
Are
it.
you requesting a recorded vote?
No, I'm not, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Oh,
It's
I
been a
am,
while.
I am.
Okay,
Oh,
Counselor
okay.
Wilkinson is
Go
requesting a
ahead.
recorded vote. All right, so I will call the question. Everybody is clear on what the motion is? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. All right, information items.
Thank you.
Amendment to Youth Council Policy number CS7. Counselor Counselor Byer will make that motion. Do you want to,
Oh, okay.
Counselor Byer, do you want to speak to that motion from Youth Council yesterday?
Yes, I can, thank you. Through the chair to council and administration. So last night we had a youth council meeting and we asked the youth to kind of come up with a bit of a change in the policy. Previously, it was just that they had to volunteer at 4 different events, and then we started to realize that some events were 8 hours long, some events were 1 hour long, and although I think they fulfilled that in the previous years beyond what was necessary, we wanted to just offer some clarity to that, and they came up with the suggestion that 16 hours annually would be the minimum that they would have to volunteer to nonprofits that support Edson in order to be eligible for the bursary. So that was the number that they came up with, and felt that that was very fair, based on many events are 4 hours long, and 4 were 16. So, but some are only 1 hour long. So they wanted to make sure that that it was fair across the table. So they gave that as a recommendation for council tonight.
All right, thank you. Counselor Chenard.
Just a comment with COVID, because I love the idea of 16 hours, because a lot of these volunteers with the events, but due to COVID, if there's not enough events, would there be enough for them to get 16 hours?
Counselor Byer.
Thank you. To Councillor Chenard, through the chair to Councillor Chenard, that I don't believe that that has been an issue. There have been numerous opportunities for them to volunteer, and they have been stepping up to that.
Okay, thank you. I'm full of support of it. I was just curious about that, if they can have that concern, sure.
Sure thing, Counselor Wilkinson.
Through the chair, I really like to see this, where it is a set amount. Otherwise, it's really hard, I think, for anyone to know exactly what's expected of them. So it's perfect. And I also like that it's a true volunteer experience.
Thank you. Any other further comments or questions? To be clear, youth counselors are actually, in order to get $400 bursaries, they have to complete the volunteer hours. So they're actually getting financial reward from participating. So
It's leadership skills.
and leadership skills. All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Council committee reports, we're going back to October the 21st, and we will start with Councillor Sorensen.
Okay, then thank you, on October 21st, I had the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority meeting, Zoom. Let me just go through my list here, sorry. There was Community of the Whole, October 27th. Intermunicipal Committee meeting on October 29th. That was excellent, and a lot of cooperation, and we seem to be on track in the same direction, so excited about that. And Youth Council yesterday, another great meeting. We went through the strategic what do you call benchmarks or
Matrix.
Metrics, yes. And they chose, council already, regular council already had them ranked, and they went and re-ranked them according to their priorities, and it was very informative, and it was, we broke into smaller groups, and we got a lot done, so I was really excited. It was a good format to use. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bevan.
Call meeting on the 27th, 29th, county and town council meeting together. It was very positive, so it was a really nice meeting. Community Futures here is, West Yellow is hosting the following live event here, juggling personal wellness and business needs. Building better mental health for entrepreneurs, November the 5th at 6:30. The facilitator is Trevor Hawes, is a mental health promotion facilitator for Grand Cache, Jasper, Hinton, and Edson. He'll provide some words of wisdom with regard to coping with mechanisms, juggling personal wellness and business needs, taking care of you, community resources, and much more. And that is on November the 5th at 6:30. It is a live event, so hopefully people will tune in, and especially like in this time with this result of this pandemic, a lot of people are having problems along with businesses too, and that, so he's a well-known facilitator all over, so hopefully people will tune in. And that's my report.
Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Curry.
I also had the CAL meeting on the 27th and the intermunicipality meeting on the 29th. I echo what Councillor Sorensen said. Yeah, it was really, really positive, and it's so nice to sit down with our counterparts and have respectful conversations and work together, so it was really great. I'll echo what Councillor Bevan said there, and Trevor Haas is a really fantastic presenter in his field, and I've been to numerous of his different sessions, so I highly recommend that you guys attend that. I had the Historical Society meeting on the 29th. I do want to do a couple updates because it's been a little bit for that. They did do some financial updates, and as you guys can expect, rentals were down 50%. So 50% is where rentals are at right now, or 49%. Sherry give me trouble if she's watching that. Sherry provided me really beautiful graphs, so I'm so happy. So they have some for Christmas, like December. They are starting to see a few more. They're also really worried, and they are prepared that with what is going on right now, numbers and events are at risk of getting lessened. So they are aware and prepared that things could change even, and that could decrease more. So kind of anything around those rentals, they've seen a huge decrease in donations and such. Weirdly though, their commission sales are really up. People are coming into the museum to like buy things, and to the store. The store is beautiful. Christmas is around the corner, you guys. Go get your Christmas gifts. So there's that. Coming up right away, the escape room is coming. It is COVID friendly. It is set up in multiple different rooms. It's intense. It is good. I didn't go in because I wanted to respectfully be able to compete against any of you. So I didn't want you to ever call me a cheater. So I did not go to even see the painting or any of it. They have decided, it was a little late getting going because the writer of it was really descriptive, and it took a lot longer to build than they anticipated. And they just recognized that it's down in the basement of the original side, so it can go all around. So instead of having a time limit to it, they will just continue to book. Well, people, and they will only be able to book, they'll have to take a solid hour in between for sanitizing. So be prepared, and it'll be a really great COVID-friendly thing to do. So there's that. The only other thing that I think we should be prepared, there's a few things that they'll be coming to the town just about facility and the building and any concerns we might have with some internal structure things, that just whose role that is, kind of looking at any of our rentals. And then the other thing I did want to mention, and so just things that I think we should be aware of, is they have been having some issues with more needles, they have had to shut the bathrooms down at 5. So they were keeping the bathrooms open later because the cleaners come in at 7. And unfortunately the cleaners were, and it just was too much of a liability and unsafe. And the deck is really nicely covered, which makes for a great sleeping space. And also there's been some bodily fluids and needles. So we're looking at putting in some lights, high beam lights, to really discourage people from being able to sleep there. But just something that we might have to look at with our enforcement, it's nice to see you here, on supporting them, because it has been, and they have brought in training to train the staff on proper removal, but unfortunately it is, so something I think for us as a community to just be aware of and what we're going to do with enforcement. It seems to be, they have had 1 or 2 and now it's a regular daily occurrence. So just making sure we're supporting them. But otherwise they are doing great and still doing a lot, so it's fantastic.
All right, thank you, Councillor Curry, and I think to your last point there on the needle debris, that's the results of no longer having a needle exchange program in our community, and we're gonna see a lot more of that. Councillor Wilkinson.
All right, October 21st at 9 in the morning, had a Zoom meeting with Evergreen Foundation, more or less regarding the Wildwood build and getting votes in place and signatures in place. I had the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management meeting. Don Mitchell is the chair, and Marcel Michaels is the vice chair. On the 22nd, I had a site meeting in Hinton, and they're getting the pre-assembled units all trucked in, and then they just lift them over with a crane. It's just going to go up so fast because it was a design build, which is ideal. On the 24th, I had the AGM for Athabasca Watershed. I do feel that Paul, I didn't get his last name, with Keepers of the Water, he lives near Edson, and he's very interested in this, so I just do wonder at the necessity of the town being a member in this. On the 27th, I had the committee as a whole meeting. The 28th, I attended the Zoom meeting with Staff Sergeant Delisle. I thought he did an excellent job talking about just all the crimes or lack of crimes in Edson. I was really quite surprised at the little interest there seemed to be in it from the public. Very few people on there asking questions, and it seems to be a big concern with people, so I thought they would really have turned out. Again, I think that the Zoom meetings get quite tiresome after a bit. On the 29th, I had the regional FCSS meeting here. I was again elected to be the regional representative, and I must say that Tanya Byers was a great help to me. It was nice to have it on the big TV in the boardroom. On November 2nd, Evergreen Foundation, we're working with Saddlepack and Associates on our CAO performance evaluation. So I started that as chair of the board, and we're continuing on that tomorrow. And on the good news side, we have dates, and people will be moving into Parkland Lodge. So I'm sure the community all knows about that already, but thank goodness is all I can say. Thank goodness.
Councillor Barr.
Just a question.
You have the floor.
To the chair, to Councillor Wilkinson. Were you attending the FCSS as a councillor or as a resident?
No, I'm elected as the FCSS, a regional representative. I would have to be a councillor to run for that position, but I did before. I was the rep before, and then Brian Broughton was the representative for a while, and then the Yellowhead County Board disbanded, so he couldn't be. So then at a meeting I wasn't at last year, I was elected again, and now this year.
You're not a council appointee though to that.
Not a council appointee, but I guess you have to be a councillor to be on it, so possibly I shouldn't be. Is this what you're meaning? I shouldn't be reporting on it at this meeting?
Yes, that's my
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
because Councillor Chenard's actually the town of Edson representative.
All right, and he couldn't make it because he felt he had to go.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't there, so that's why I
Right,
allowed
okay.
the comments,
Otherwise,
but,
Gene, I'll have you report what happens.
You're actually my alt.
no, actually, she's not.
Oh, you're the alt.
Okay, all right.
Councillor Bennett.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilkinson, who's helping move the people into the lodge?
I don't know, that's something that you could ask Greg. Remember the firemen did before because they were all bonded, and they may be helping. I hope families are. Like, again, cross your fingers, Evergreen Foundation does not have any COVID yet in their facilities, so we can only hope that that lasts. So it's going to be very tricky now that it got held on so late and so long.
Councillor Sorensen.
Just further to that point, I was in a totally unrelated Zoom meeting with Greg Positiony, and the same question was asked if he needed help moving the seniors over, and he said they do not need
Okay.
any community.
No, they'll have it organized. They'll have it organized.
Councillor Byer.
Thank you. My committee's council report, I have October 27th, I have the committee of the whole meeting here. October 29th, I had the intermunicipal committee meeting with ourselves and Yellowhead County councillors, which was, as reported, very respectful, and I appreciate our maturity at these meetings. And on November 2nd, I had the youth council meeting, and as Councillor Sorensen mentioned, it was really great to talk about our strategic priorities and our action items, and explain the action items to the youth, of course, and have them rank them, what was a priority for them. So we've done that, and the next meeting we'll come back and have further discussion. So it was really great.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chenard.
On October 27th, the COW meeting, and unfortunately due to COVID, I finally had a meeting I could attend at FCSS, but we were double booked. So I did not attend the FCSS, but I was at the county, which I thought was important. We had a great conversation. It's been a long time since we met with them, and I was pleased that we're still on the same page moving forward. So that's it for my report.
All right, October 22nd, I joined Mary Glinsky, MLA Long, and MP Soroka for the Chamber of Commerce Business Awards. Obviously a lot different with COVID, but it was just phenomenal to see the amount of businesses that were nominated for awards this year. I think it really speaks to the quality of businesses and entrepreneurship in our community. We've actually issued, I believe it's 55 new business licenses this year in our communities. So we're bucking the trend, and hopefully we will see success with those businesses. On October 23rd, I met with MLA Long for about an hour to discuss concerns over FCSS funding and the new FRN model based on our discussions at our FCSS Advisory Committee meeting. Also talked about the traffic lights at 55th and 4th, and as council is aware, those are now delayed until January, but he got an answer to me fairly quickly. He was actually wondering the same thing since he was at that intersection the night before. So he did want me to extend his thanks and appreciation for council's efforts on COVID response. He certainly looks at our community as an example of responding appropriately. And with COVID, he's not able to attend as many meetings, and a lot of the meetings have been truncated to just 1 or 2 people. So he will try to endeavor to engage with us more directly as soon as he's able. On October 25th, we were lucky to have the mayor of Wetaskiwin in town, so went for breakfast with him, and we talked about a number of things, including homelessness is an issue that they're tackling as well. And they're a city, so they have a lot more resources than we do and access to services. October 27th, Committee of the Whole. October 29th, intermunicipal meeting with Yellowhead County, and I thought it was just a great dialogue that we had with them, and it was great for all of us to work together and hear each other's thoughts, ideas, and concerns. And then last night was our youth council meeting, and I thought it was one of the more productive meetings that we had, breaking out in smaller groups and really engaged. And interesting to note that we had half of our youth council at one point or another actually watched our budget workshop. Most left about halfway through because they had enough and needed a nap, but they had some really good questions following that, everything from photo laser to parks maintenance and that sort of thing. So it was really a really good experience, and that's my report. Councillor Wilkinson and then Councillor Curry.
Would it be possible to get the youth council's ranking on that matrix, just so we could see it as well?
Yeah, so they did a preliminary review. We're running out of time at the meeting last night, but we're going to bring it back to our next youth council to delve deeper.
Oh, good.
And youth council is going to be focusing in each department on one item that they want to talk about and provide feedback on. So
Okay, just love to know their thoughts.
yeah, so
Yeah.
for example, if I may, the smoking bylaw is a low ranking
Okay, okay.
for council, but for youth council it's a high ranking, higher ranking one. So that's gonna get Councilor Schwartz goggles up.
Right.
But they're gonna be delving deeper into that, and we're got a really good engaged group of folks. So, Councillor Curry.
Just because you were mentioning the chamber and such, I did, because it was asked at the last meeting, and I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that the loan with Community Future is live, the application is live, it has been out there. If you haven't shared it on your Facebook feeds yet, please do. So Community Futures just put it out on October 26th. So it is there, ready to go, so share and let businesses know when the application is available to be done. So I just wanted to, because as you mentioned, the chamber there, just so people are aware that it is good to go.
All right, no financial items, questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting. Hearing none, I will take a motion for adjournment. Councillor Chenard, all those in favor, motion carried.